Hello Guardians, it is Ebontis here, and we've had a lot of information drop in the last couple of days, so I wanted to get a video out to you guys, basically covering most everything that's happened in the last few days. On the 7th, they dropped the information post about Crimson Days and what will be coming. If you were around for Destiny 1, you know Crimson Days was a Valentine's themed event. It had a 2v2 specific mode, and usually there was some kind of modifier to it to make it slightly different. Well, I mean, this is one of our few things that's actually going to be 2v2, so that alone is going to be different for Destiny 2, so that'll be kind of an interesting feel. It will be Clash, and each round is going to have a twist to it. So the twist to Crimson Days itself is going to be the way you play. Basically what's going to happen is if you're in close proximity to your partner, your abilities will recharge faster. If you get too far away from each other, then the enemies will be given a waypoint leading to your location. Basically, they'll be able to see you on the radar pretty easily and know if you're trying to flank. So they definitely want you sticking together. It is nice they're going to have matchmaking. I don't think that was actually in the first Crimson Days because you kind of had to have somebody. There was no matchmaking, which was kind of annoying. So I'm glad they brought matchmaking in for those who just want to pop in and at least get some of these. As an activity, you may not know the person you're playing with, but hopefully if people understand the concept behind it, they'll play reasonably well. Another piece, they're also going to be bringing a new map into Destiny 2. It's going to be the Burning Shrine from Destiny 1, so not anything brand spanking new, but they're going to retheme it to basically be like future timeline for Vex. So it's the one that's very dark with the kind of purplish hue background, stuff like that. So it looks pretty cool. Burning Shrine's always kind of a unique map. Another thing from Destiny 1, I know some people are going to be saying that. It's a new map for, a game that we're on now because I'm not playing Destiny 1 anymore. So, it's nice to have the old maps sometimes come back, but it'd be nice if they did an old map and a new map. I know the old map probably takes a lot of tweaks and engine work, and especially for PC, you got to do different textures and things like that. But in turn, I'd like to see another map to come with this. I mean, it'd just be nice to have some more variety, and especially if it's free, it'd be a nice, tip of the hat in the player's direction. But either way, should be kind of cool. Abilities recharging faster is going to make it interesting. Not quite like Mayhem. Maybe if you're standing next to each other, it's a little closer to that, but we'll just have to see how quickly they recharge. Then you've got the rewards for all of the fun stuff of Crimson Days. So as you guys can see, they've got the big heart emote, which is the big one, so they wanted to definitely get that one up there. But the big thing is you've got the emotes, the ghost shells, the shaders, the sparrows. I actually don't see any ships, which is unfortunate. A few ornaments. All of those things are going to be coming from Crimson Engrams, but they're making them much easier to get. Crimson Engrams are going to be coming from the Crucible playlist Crimson Days, so they're going to be giving those to you very frequently within there. And then also, they're going to be giving them to you for just playing gameplay activities. So anytime you level up and you get a normal illuminated engram, or what you think of bright engrams, but just Season 2, they're also going to give you a Crimson Engram at the same time. So you get double those just by playing. So if you're going to do the raid, or you're running on, doing your Flashpoint and you get a level up, you're still going to get a Crimson Engram there. So it's a 1-week event. They're trying to throw a bunch of engrams at you, which I do appreciate. Now, is there anything special in the engrams? To me, not really. The emotes are honestly usually cool, and the fact that you can earn them, that might be fun, but ghost shells don't really do much for me. They don't have any perks on them usually that matter, most of the time at least, except, say, the ghost one and a couple other special ones. The sparrows are all red and white. The ghost shells are all red and white, or black and white. There's an exotic sparrow. There's a couple ornaments and a couple emotes, and mostly going to be red, white, and black shaders. So outside of those, they're going to be giving you specific rewards from specific activities. Now, this is what we want to see more of. So they're going to be doing engrams or specific items for specific tasks as follows. When you finish the opening milestone by finishing 5 matches, you're going to be getting a ghost shell. When you finish the Crucible Days playlist, you can get a chance to earn basically the sparrow. When you complete either raid, you'll have a chance to claim an exotic ornament for the Wardcliff coil from the final chest. And then when you complete the Nightfall during Crimson Days, you can get a Flaunting Dance emote. So, got the ghost shell, got the sparrow, nothing too crazy there, but, Valentine's themed red and white and pink petals or whatever you want to consider that. The ornament doesn't really do that much to it. And the chain's kind of different. It's darker on the back, a little more steampunkish, I guess you could say. But in general, not too crazy on the ornament. But the flaunt's pretty cool. It's actually a pretty long dance. So if you can get this one from just doing a Nightfall, that's actually kind of cool. So I always enjoy the emotes. But this one is actually really, really long, so that's kind of cool. I always enjoy the lengthier ones. 11 seconds for an emote, not too shabby. So Crimson Days, they're just going to be throwing the gear at you. They are going to allow you, with any Bright Dust you've got, to potentially buy the items. Now, one thing to note about everything in the Crimson Engram, it's going to work as a checklist. Once you have it, you're not going to get a duplicate until you have everything. So that's really nice. You're not going to be getting like 6 of the same shader. Hopefully, if you've got the shader, maybe you could get a shader, but you always get something else. However that's going to work, at least it seems like you're going to be able to get most of the things you want if you just put some time in. Seems reasonable. I kind of like it. Second thing, before I jump over to this weekly update we've got here, is Activision's earnings call. Now, the earnings call is typically for Activision, talking about all the franchises. So you've got like Candy Crush and all of King Company. You've got Blizzard and everything that they do, which is always insane. And also Activision, which is just ridiculously profitable as well. They're just huge. But they have things like Call of Duty, obviously, Destiny 2 and Bungie, of course. But I actually tuned into the call at kind of the right moment. I was looking for it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's today. And I tuned in like 5 minutes later. They were talking about Destiny 2. Couple main things. They said the expansion Curse of Osiris outsold the first expansion for Destiny 1, which in the grand scheme, I feel like isn't that hard to do. The statistic is kind of skewed, and that's the joys about statistics. If you can find some way to hopefully make them sound good. So on this one, they said, hey, most people who bought, all of Destiny 1 as this, $99 package, which most people did because they assumed, the expansions and everything were going to be awesome. They sold more copies of Destiny 2 than Destiny 1, so therefore the expansion sold more than Destiny, for Destiny 2 than Destiny 1. What I would be curious to see is people who bought the base game of both, how many bought the Dark Below versus the Curse of Osiris expansion. Some may have waited for reviews for a couple of days and things like that. But in general, that would be a more telling statistic, one we will never get, and one I'd be kind of curious to know. But either way, they've made a lot of money on Destiny 2. Hopefully that allows them to do some of the things we're hoping for. Expand teams, throw more people at the live projects, things like that. So hopefully that's good. Second, they did confirm there is going to be a, second expansion for year 1 of Destiny 2 in May. And then the bigger news was the fact that they confirmed there is going to be a major expansion in the second half of the year. Now, if the second expansion for year 1 is coming out in May, don't expect it to be June or like July. Technically, that's the second half. What I would honestly like to see, it probably won't happen, because if they stick to their standard timeline, it's going to be September, just because that's where Destiny 2 sits in the year. But unfortunately, by doing that, and I know different teams are working on different things, I would imagine the team working on expansion number 2 is not the team working on a major expansion revamp. That could have been, Luke Smith and his team. As soon as they had the game basically in gold status to ship, they started working on the major piece that was next, and they had the roadmap for the other 2, and other teams were doing that, but they started working on the new thing. Is it going to be a Taken King level thing? That's what a lot of us are hoping for. But we also know there are many things that we want fixed within Destiny before we get a major piece of the same, get more of what we have now is not going to be better than, a fixed thing later on. So September is likely a pretty standard date when to expect that. But I like the fact that they said the second half, because maybe it gives them the freedom to push it maybe as far as Activision's investors will allow, which is kind of the problem of working with them. But if, say, it's December, say it might be the first or second week of September, maybe say it's just December 15th, just put middle of the month. It's before Christmas, still gives you time to get holiday sales, but you have 3 months from September, October, November, December. You have those 3 months in between to make more content, make things better, improve more, add more in the game, have that time to do what you need. I would much rather see that out of Bungie and Activision, to take a second, be like, we want to play your game. People are passionate. People say the things that they do, whether they're out of context, whether they're rude. All the things they say are because they do want to enjoy the game. People don't bash on something. People don't take the time to spend bad reviews on something unless they wanted it to be good, typically. I mean, if you're going to go to a restaurant and you get really crappy service, you might post a review that says, yeah, my service was bad, but you didn't go to the restaurant in the first place if you didn't have an inkling or hope that it was going to be decent. I mean, I'm not going to go to a restaurant that, sells food that I don't really want to enjoy and then say it's bad, because that's not really up my alley in the first place. That defeats the purpose. So all the people who make videos about, Bungie and make videos about Destiny 2, saying they're moving on, all of that's understandable, but the reason all that happens is because we do want to enjoy the game. So if things get pushed, if for some reason they can't launch what they want to, maybe they get the chance to push it. Maybe there's a point now, if the community has given enough feedback, the player base has dropped, they need something major to bring them back, and maybe Activision will see that. They still have investors to answer to, so it's hard to balance that card both ways. And that may hurt a stock price for them as well if they're saying, hey, this major release that we're going to have in, quarter 4 of 2018 is not going to be there. That earnings call come February of 2019 may not be as positive, but then they could spin it and say, hey, we released this in, January or February or something before the call, and we were able to really capitalize on a brand new, investment of players, and people came back and they've been sticking around. That would be the news that more people would be excited to hear, that you have people happy back in the game, spending more time in it. It's more popular on Twitch, numbers are up. Those are the things that in the long term for investors would be good. Stock price may take a hit when they do an earnings call, if or pretty much the day that, the announcement says, hey, this is getting pushed back. You could probably watch Activision stock price if for some reason Bungie is like, hey, we're going to push that, expansion, the major expansion, that year 2, whatever it is going to be called, into early 2019. The day that happens, that Activision stock would probably take a bump. Now, if it was Call of Duty saying, hey, we're not releasing one this year, that's a huge factor. If it's Bungie's expansion, it's still a big deal for them because it's a big fork of, all of what makes up Activision now. But still, their world wouldn't end. You'd have a happier player base, and maybe people would see that, hey, we're looking at the long term. It's harder to do with investors and things like that, but it's one of those things we can hope for. But a major expansion, whatever year 2 is, whenever it comes, if it's September, I worry it could be rushed. If it's December, I'm honestly okay with that. It just gives me more time to play other things. So, and then just kind of kicks off the new year and the holidays with something just to dive, headfirst into for a while. So hopefully we can get the most out of that. We'll just have to see what comes, and that's just going to be down the road. We also have This Week at Bungie for February 8th, and we got some information that I honestly didn't expect to see in detail, because the patch is coming a few weeks later. But for now, they wanted to drop a little bit more information as to what's coming with the February patch on the 27th. So Crimson Days we know is coming. 2v2 should be fun. The biggest thing is Nightfall Scoring. So there's a couple pieces to that. They wanted to make sure and cover a couple of things. So right now, when you're running a Nightfall, the biggest thing is the timer. And they wanted to make it to where the timer is not the thing that says, hey, you either passed or failed. If you failed, you can't get the reward. There's no way to get it because you didn't hit the timer. But also the timer doesn't make you engage in the encounters as much. You're going to skip as much as feasibly possible. All of that type of stuff is going to be something they do want to change. So, that being said, what they're really looking to do is change it to where engaging with enemies is actually more rewarding. So as opposed to skipping a group of enemies, fighting them is going to be more beneficial. That was the thing with the killing time modifier. Depending on the size of the group of enemies, if I could throw a grenade and kill a couple as I ran by something, I might do that. But I might not even throw my grenade at one person if it doesn't do me any good for the benefit of my score. So, or time previously. Now, hopefully, if I throw a grenade as I run by, it's going to give me, a rewarding bonus. You can see in the picture that you've got a Phalanx giving you 430, Legionaries giving you 322. Now, that's with the modifier, and that's in challenge mode, and I'll get to that below. But still, they're giving you a decent amount of points to get what you're going for. So I kind of like the idea that killing monsters is going to be more important than... Sorry, I've been playing Monster Hunter. Killing enemies is going to be more important than, say, making orbs. Orbs are going to be beneficial. Obviously, working with your team to kill things quicker is going to be good. But they wanted to make sure it was overall just killing. So if you're using something like Sweet Business in the picture and you don't get the precision shot, that doesn't give you a huge bonus and therefore make you want to run just scout rifles or hand cannons. If you want to unload with other stuff, hopefully you'll be able to. There's still efficiency of some weapons being better than others, but this gives you a little more variety. They also wanted to give you options for more challenges, which I'll cover later below, which is kind of where you'll see the prestige challenges. And then also, they still wanted to make it a fairly quick activity. They don't want you slogging in this thing for like 2 hours, trying to either find a way to rack up score cheaply and try and get the highest score in a way that doesn't make sense, because people, when they got Nightfall scores, when there was strike scoring before, there was normal amounts of scoring, and then they kind of curtailed that to a point, and then you got to see where about the real high scores would be. So that was with Prison of Elders back in Destiny 1. People were just sitting in there farming certain things that would keep spawning, stuff like that. And that's not what they're going for. They do want you to still play through the strike normally in a reasonable amount of time, and not just like sit in the back and try and snipe everything with scout rifle slowly. There's needs to be some sense of urgency, but if for some reason you don't make, the time frame that they're looking at, you can still finish the strike. You just may not get as high of a score. So not completely defeating, but in turn, if you, accomplish it very quickly with challenges, you will be well rewarded. So we'll see if all that plays out. Hopefully it's not too easy, doesn't feel as empty as, you worry it could. But the idea is what they're going for. The mechanics are going to look like this. Scoring is going to be team-based. It's just a sum of all the, all your points working together. It's not going to be like who steals what kill or anything like that. You're just working together to knock everything out. Also, it's going to be, as they said, primarily driven by kills, secondarily by orb generation. So if you make orbs, you're going to get some bonus points, things like that. But they're also going to be working on understanding this too. So if certain things give more, or certain enemies are more rewarding, or if orbs are too heavy, or if monsters don't reward enough, all of those things, they're wanting to call this Nightfall Scoring 0.9. Not quite a 1.0 release, because they're not quite ready to say this is exactly where we're going to leave it. They want to get it out in the community and test this out, and then if they make changes later, depending on feedback and numbers and stats, they will do that later. I've never seen them do anything like that. That's actually really cool. This is not like a public test. This is going to be a public working release, but it's the idea that these are the ideas we have. We want to get them out to you guys. We want to see them in action, and then depending on how things go, we may change some things to kind of finalize with final numbers. That's probably one of the coolest things I've seen. This is more of the stuff we need. Put something out there, see how it works. This is what we're thinking of, but we may make some minor tweaks later to kind of finalize what strike scoring for Nightfalls could be in the long run. But for now, this is in the works. The score will bleed over time. Now, this is something people are going to be like, ah, crap. Now, if you were in Prison of Elders and you got stuck in a rough room, or if you picture Skolas in the Prison of Elders, he didn't have a timer on it because that was Challenge of Elders. But in turn, it was one of those things when you were like, okay, if I can't finish this, if I'm trying to solo this thing and I'm taking my time, I get to a point where I'm losing more score than I'm getting back, and that was kind of defeating. That shouldn't happen, so they're working on having the score decay be transparent, for one, and also, mostly, they just want to record teams that go faster. So if you do the same thing, but you do it quicker, you should be rewarded, because that takes skill. That's totally fine. Now, they don't want somebody trying to sit in there for 2 hours as well. There's a point where that's kind of annoying. So what they're working on is strike scoring, cutting off after a time threshold. So the time is kind of obscure, but if you run with a team, it's kind of roughly around this time frame anyway. At 15 minutes of a Nightfall strike, new points after 15 minutes are reduced by 50%. So if you're getting 100 points for shooting an enemy after 15:01, and you shoot the same enemy, you're going to get 50 points. At 18 minutes, you stop earning new points. Then you just run to the finish and post your score. So you can still finish it. You still can finish your milestone, which is fine. But they also wanted to kind of make it a cap where you just can't sit in there and chill and take your sweet time sniping every single guy. There's a reason to push and kind of get in the mix a little quicker. Risk versus reward. Basically, they said they want time to matter, but they also wanted to avoid some of the problems they saw with Prison of Elders, where a high score might involve punishing respawning combatants and yourself a few hours until the novelty wore off. So a good Nightfall clear shouldn't feel like a slog, and I understand that, and I'm glad they do. Next piece is with Prestige. They wanted to crank things up and give you a chance to make things even more difficult. Esoteric, this is for you. If you guys don't know who he is, he solos the Nightfalls right now. For one, he's a beast, and two, he's had the time to practice these things. He knows where enemies are going to spawn. I used to know that stuff for Destiny 1, and I'm just not there right now. So I'm hoping now, with the time limiter being not a factor, maybe I can take a little longer and work on some of this stuff with you guys and spend some time to learn the strikes. So I'm kind of going to be jumping back into Nightfall solos with you guys here in a couple of weeks. So I know many of you have asked. They will be returning. So Nightfall Challenges are going to come with the Prestige, and what you can do is decide how difficult you want to make it. That's kind of interesting. You can actually figure out if you want to make this thing more difficult, less difficult, all that type of stuff. So as you guys can see in this picture, the Nightfall Challenge is going to be like a challenge card. You pick it up, and maybe it's the challenge card for the week. You could pick it up from Zavala. When it's in your inventory, this enables modifiers in the Nightfall on prestige difficulty. More challenging modifiers will apply larger score multipliers. So, say for example, we come down here, you guys can see both these pictures at about the same time. So the Nightfall Challenge card, when you're looking at it, the multiplier is 2.15%, or 2.15 times the regular score. So 215%. The power handicap, and again, remember this is prestige, where you want to be max as possible, is 10. So if you're 335, you're going to be 325, potentially is the way I read that. Now below that are two selectable modifiers. Now probably the more you select, the higher your multiplier. If you don't select either of these, then maybe the power handicap is a small modifier and you don't get as big of a boost. But if you select both, maybe it's really high. One of them, this brings back Destiny 1 Nightfalls from year 1. If your entire team fails, you are returned to orbit. Basically means if you have, once you get to that no respawn zone point, where you have that 30-second, you have to get rezzed basically. If you all die, you have to start the whole thing over. Gives a little bit more gravity to it, but if you finish it, then it's more rewarding. I'm okay with this because it's optional. But if you want to throw it in there, you get higher points and then you finish it, cool. Because who knows, you may have beaten your head against the wall with 4 or 5 complete and total wipes, going back through the strike again. Then when you finally got it, your score is going to be bigger. So that's pretty cool. Second one, it looks like you can, it says Solar Singe. Below, you can see that basically solar damage increases slightly from all sources. That's enemies and you both. So if there are solar enemies on, say, a Cabal strike, that's going to be rough. But say you pick Arc. There's not as many Arc things in maybe a Cabal strike, if I'm thinking right, but that's just off the top of my head. Say Arc is going to be a little more favored that week. So there might be a little curation in these challenge cards to know, you know, if it's a Cabal strike and Solar's the modifier, maybe that gives you a little higher multiplier than an Arc one or a Void one, because maybe there's not a lot of Void stuff when it comes to Cabal, but maybe there's a lot of Solar. Things like that may also bump it up more, but it looks like in the picture below that you can pick in the damage type modifier 3 different ones. So I like the idea of this, depending on, you know, how difficult you want to make it. Maybe you don't have the damage on, maybe you just turn on the death one, or vice versa. So you can pick how much. And they're hoping to add more challenges later. These just seems like the things they wanted to try out first, and they're going to add more with time comes and seeing how these work. Then we come to the rewards. So with the rewards, you're going to have things like, for one, new auras that are going to be based on, you know, certain strikes. So say, for example, the Inverted Spire, you can see in this picture, applies a purple crown aura, and it's based on your score. So with the score, they're going to have kind of a global threshold. If you beat the global kind of base number for a score, then you can, you know, have the aura. If you don't quite get there, then at least you know how close you were, and maybe you know what you need to work on to get back to it. So then if you get the aura running around in the tower, people will know it's like, hey, okay, he knocked this strike out this quickly. He's done it pretty well. That's actually pretty cool. So I like that. They're going to be different for each different strike. You'll have different emblems, it looks like, for each one. This one literally says the Inverted Spire. That's the name of a strike. So I imagine each has their own. Keep track of your personal score, which is cool, because if you look at it, maybe it'll have the score right on there when you're in a group of a raid, and you're like, hey, I got a really high score in this strike, and I'm just going to wear this thing around because I did awesome. That's cool. You can boast your glory, and it's not too shabby. But the fact that you get different color auras, it's got the tracking for yourself. You can see how much you need to get above the global threshold so you can get that minimum, and it's decent. It's kind of cool. So the emblem is just going to be, you know, there. And then if you hit the threshold, you should probably just be able to activate the aura. Now, the other thing that comes with the aura is says, okay, along with the aura, personal score of over the threshold will also unlock a fire team wide. Doesn't matter if they have done it, but if you're the only one on your fire team that has, boosts Vanguard token drops in that strike by 25%. Vanguard tokens don't do that much for me, but at least it's a cool boost if you've done it and you're going to go help somebody else. You get more for doing it, and you help them out too. So again, they did want to reiterate, this is like 0.0 or 0.9. So not completely done. They still want to kind of see what they want to add more later on to it, and that's kind of cool. All right, guys, so next we come to the raid. And with the raid, we haven't seen the prestige mode for Eater of Worlds, and there's been a reason. They've been working on changing up prestige mode for pretty much all raids. So they've been thinking about it for a while. They've been trying to figure out, as opposed to just making, enemies harder to kill and more bullet sponges, they wanted to change it up and give you specific, basically modifiers for the raid and goals that you do for kind of a curated raid. Kind of cool. At some point, they may run out of ideas, but it's an idea that I kind of like. Maybe they're random at some point. Maybe it's a little more variety, but definitely gives you some examples. And these, they say, let's look at some hypothetical. Keep in mind, these are not planned, but they give an idea of what you might see. But this will cover all raids. So it should be Leviathan, Eater of Worlds, and whatever comes with Expansion 2 for the raid layer there. It's going to be a rotation probably between those. And it's a weekly rotation, so whatever the prestige is going to be only for one raid per week. So it gives you an idea that it's like, okay, I'm going to go prestige this one. So for week 1, for example, they have the Eater of Worlds. Modifiers Marksman. Precision damage is increased. Landing a precision shot grants 1 ammo directly to the magazine. Now that sounds pretty powerful. The required loadout matches it very well. So you've got hand cannon is going to be your kinetic. You just need a hand cannon type. So we know Better Devils, we're all going to bring that in. Energy would be a scout rifle. I'd bring them on. Now the power weapon's the interesting one. A linear fusion rifle. So that's kind of interesting. Linear fusion rifle is the one you charge up and you just get that little single beam instead of all of them. So the precision shot is more manageable, but it really narrows down one specific type of weapon, which is interesting. But it'll definitely make you play the game differently, that's for sure. Say for week 2, whatever the raid layer is for Expansion 2, the modifier is Gladiator. Your melee damage is increased, and melee kills grant bonus super. So super, recharge rate, I'm sure. Required loadout is sidearm, submachine gun, and shotgun. Basically, you're going to be up in enemies' faces. Now, if your melee damage is increased, that's cool. Pump some damage out with your sidearm, switch to your submachine gun, they get close, you stab them, you get some super bonus. It totally changes the way you'd play the fights. Now, are you going to want to get up in the mix of everything? No. I think when it comes to certain, and this is why I wonder about the curation. So if you think about the Callus fight, if you guys have done it, if you're in the Shadow Realm, if you guys know what I mean by that, hopefully, that's what I call it. If you're in that side and you're not in the throne room, using a sidearm or a submachine gun to try and kill the scions is going to be a difficult task just because you need some accuracy at distance and you're really on a time crunch. It's not like it can run in and get close up next to a whole bunch of enemies and just unload on them, shotgun, stab them, whatever it is. I can't even get to those guys. So there's a point where the previous one for Marksman would work very well for the regular Leviathan raid, but Gladiator and this kinetic up close stuff probably wouldn't work as well, specifically for, the Callus fight. So they've got to watch what you curate, and that's kind of why I wonder in how much variation they can really have. Week 3, and again, none of these are real, but this would be another example. They have Conduit. Each kill you get before reloading or swapping weapons gives you increasingly more ability energy. So if you don't reload as much, and you have, you get more kills, basically you're going to have more grenades, melees, class abilities, all that stuff's going to recharge quicker. So that's actually kind of cool. And here they have kinetic as auto rifle. This is the one that's a little weird. They have the energy as literally risk runner. One specific weapon. Now, risk runner's not a bad weapon. It's a submachine gun. You get a lot of ammo from it anyway, so before reloading that could be really beneficial. Maybe it's like a hint of, hey, this is something you could possibly use if it was energy was actually submachine gun and not risk runner. But the idea there is not say somebody's brand new to the game or they just haven't played for a few weeks, but they did level up and they want to go do the raid. Maybe the challenge mode isn't for them, but the fact that you need one gun and some of that's still RNG, I don't know if that part makes sense. Below that, they have the power weapon of grenade launcher. That would kind of suck because we all know grenade launchers suck, but hopefully by then, the sandbox update is also live as well. So this is coming with like the May-ish Expansion 2 update. They're hoping. Now, this is kind of a bigger rework, so maybe this will get pushed to later, but this is at least what they're hoping for at this point. So they're saying it's for May. But again, this is a major overhaul and could be pushed out further. So maybe this comes with the, year 2 Taken King 2.0 expansion or whatever you want to call it. So finally, they are going to do a hotfix. They had one hotfix get deployed. There's also going to be a patch next week to get everything ready for Crimson Days, pretty much at reset time. So it's going to be 10 a.m. my time, Central Time, and then it's till about 2 p.m. Central Time. So take out those 3 hours that the system would be up, and then you'll finally kick it back off at basically noon Pacific Time for playing. But they did actually deploy a hotfix, so the Lost Sector rewards are no longer throttled. They basically fixed it to where you can loot, you can open the boss chest after killing the boss in a Lost Sector once. Now, if you go run off, go do a completely different thing, and then, warp back, 30 minutes later, hopefully you can do that one. I don't know what the downtime is for a specific sector, but the idea is they don't want people farming, leaving back and forth really quickly where people could truly farm like 1,000 an hour or something crazy. So they have that fixed. The timer on the throttle is gone, so that's a good thing overall. But yeah, outside of that, we have a patch coming next week, and Xur is actually live, so I'm going to process this video so you guys can check it out. But we have a lot of information to cover. Crimson Days is coming. They're going to be throwing the Crimson engrams at you guys left and right, so hopefully you enjoy and get all the little pieces of it you want. If you're playing other games right now, that is totally cool. I'm enjoying the crap out of Monster Hunter, and it is a ton of fun. So I'm not even to high rank yet. I'm helping my friends out. I seem to stay a step ahead of them, but helping them out, playing around, and it's fun to just wall up on monsters for a little while. So I'm enjoying that. There's some things, that are good about that game, some things that aren't perfect. So no game's perfect, but if you're not having fun in this one, find something else that you enjoy for a little while. And in time, hopefully Destiny 2 will be what we're all hoping for. But all of that wrapped up into not a short video, but I hope you guys tuned in. If you did, put a like, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like below. If you made it to the end of the video, leave something in the comments that just say, hey, saw the end of this thing, appreciate it all. I'm just kind of curious how many people make it to the end of these things. But overall, I want to thank you guys for the support. I also want to get a shout out to my sponsor of my channel, DMC Group. Just wanted to thank them again for the support on my project and everything that I've done and just my channel in general. So thank you guys over there very much. If you have any questions about them, you can always let me know. But outside of that, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. You can find me on twitch.tv/Ebontis. I just got a nice little thing for streaming from Elgato. I might let you guys figure out what that is, but it should be fun. And also, you guys can find me on Twitter, keeping you guys updated with all the information got going on. It's Ebontis on both of those, right here on YouTube as well. If you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I've got more content coming your way as well. And of course, guys, as always, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you guys are at around the world. Thank you for the support. I hope you're having fun out there, and have a good one.